Teaching, Learning and Delivery. The session's really about snackable learning. So we're going to explore a little bit today about what we mean by snackable learning for some of you in the learning space. But what is micro-learning? What do we mean by micro-learning? And how can we look to incorporate that into some of the playbooks that we're building and what benefit that can bring? So, micro-learning definition is a teaching and training approach that delivers content in small, easily digestible chunks. This is a huge trend at the moment in learning, especially during COVID. There was a rise of about 40% of use of micro-learning across the industry, just purely for the fact that people were having to learn in a very different environment, sat at home, and it's forced the hand of the industry to think about how people digest and consume information. However, it isn't a new thing. Micro-learning stems has lots of different origins, and here's just three of them. The first one came out from a guy called George A. Miller, who wrote an article called The Magic Number of 7 plus or minus 2. So this first one here, chunking, the power of 7. So his theory was that actually people only remember 7 pieces of information plus or minus 2. These are the chunks of information. So in your memory, if you say a sentence, you will only remember 7 parts of that sentence. Or if you have topics of information, you will only remember those 7 bits. So really important concept. He triggered a huge discussion in the industry about what that meant, and then went on to publish lots of information about how we consume words, especially in the linking between words. So it's 1960s-ish, wrote that article. The other bit is around the spacing effect. So think about when you're taking an exam. You think pre-exam, cramming for that exam the night before, read, flip through your information. Only so much of that information that you cram goes into your head. You sit in your exam, you're sitting there looking at your paper and you're like, I know I read that somewhere, but I don't quite remember what it said. So the spacing effect is that actually your brain, your cognitive ability develops over time. So if you trickle that information into your memory, you're much more likely to remember it. So this is all about teaching, huge origins in teaching, so that you start off a topic and then you go back and recap. You go back and recap. You reiterate that learning over the course of time. The last theory is constructivist learning theory. So the origins of this is that learning isn't, and knowledge isn't innate. So you have to build your own knowledge over time. So you are in control of what knowledge you have, and you then shape your knowledge, shape your information based on your experiences and the things you encounter over the course of your life. So we'll get to why that's important in a minute when we start talking about playbooks. So three key kind of theoretical origins around what we mean by micro-learning. So we learn better in small digestible chunks. And this was all enabled by the digital revolution. It's a very broad stretch. But what I mean really by that is the internet, the World Wide Web. So 1993, 1994 came about, huge kick of the internet, and that has spurred on the creation of what we know now as LMSs, but also, more importantly, about the type of medium that we can use to facilitate learning. So the 3 chaps that left PayPal and set up YouTube in, I think it was 1994, realised that there was no way in which we could access all of the video content across the internet. Videos, huge information, knowledge medium that we use to learn today. They identified a gap in the market that we now use. How many of you watch a YouTube video? Probably once a week. It's how we learn, how we digest. A fantastic example of micro-learning. Another example of micro-learning might be Duolingo. Anyone use Duolingo, the app? Yeah? You have little challenges every day that prompt your learning that you build on, and you then can test and challenge yourself. So, micro-learning, hugely powered by the internet. So, what is it? So, micro-learning is concise, short, very snappy bits of content that enable you to learn something. It's very learner-centric, so it's all about you. You don't have to go through reams and reams of modules. You have the ability to shape what learning and knowledge you want at a particular point in time. Also, it's gamified. Going back to the Duolingo example, you know, you have your scores, you test yourself, you get the ability to create words using kind of fun bits of sentences. So it's fun, it's interactive. You don't just sit looking at a screen, absorbing information. It incorporates real-world examples. So going back to our constructivist theory there, is that you learn, your knowledge is gained from applying what you learn to real-world examples. So micro-learning incorporates that into real-world examples into what you're learning at a point in time. And they're modular. So they're not just one long course that you're expected to do. I don't know how many of you have potentially clicked next on, cyber security training or something else when you're doing your mandatory training. People don't want to sit there and do a whole long course. You want it broken down into the bits that enable you to be learner-centric, pick what you want. So what does this actually really mean? So we've got our micro-learning, our component chunks, learner-centric information that provide you with the learning you need. But then you've got our playbook concept, the method grid platform structure and framework that enables you to provide an overlay over those and provide some order and structure into those micro-learning chunks. So what we were able to do with taking the playbooks and micro-learning at the same time, we're able to bring those two things together and give people the learning they need exactly when they need it. So what we're able to do is embed this into our playbooks, and we will look now and see what that actually looks like. So before I do that, just going to explain a bit about where this has come from. So Jodie mentioned this earlier around our roadmap, product roadmap. So we have developed with them what we call the embed anything, in inverted commas, and I get told off for calling it embed anything that can be iframed in a content area. Now we've got that, we have the ability to really bring learning to the hands of the user by aligning it to the content that sits within a playbook. So this was born with the help of Network Rail through developing the need for pace. So what are the benefits of this and what does that actually mean? So benefits mean that by actually bringing the learning into playbooks, you can provide people with much more open access learning. So if you have a playbook that is like PACE, you see, is an open source playbook, you can enable that to be opened up to wider industry, wider people, rather than gatekeeping learning into one particular area. And it can become much more accessible to people in terms of allowing people to engage in a short, snappy way. Huge cost saving to embedding kind of AI-generated micro-learning within content. It is a lot cheaper and simpler to create, and also a lot quicker. Courses can be created much faster if they're shorter, and also based on the content that's sat within the playbook itself. So the two can echo each other. Much faster learning for people, as we just talked about the theory behind people actually learning and digesting information. but also importantly around continuous improvement. So things change all the time. The industry moves on, there's new trends. You might even want to introduce a new concept or theme within your playbook. The time and cost that it takes to produce AI-generated e-learning through the playbook content enables you to really be at the forefront of the changes, so massively allows you to do that. Increased engagement. People like to interact with content that's fun, that's interactive. To Bruce's point, I want to be able to validate my learning of an understanding of an element at that moment in time. It allows me to get a sense of pride in what I'm doing. I can then say, oh, I check, I've done that, I know that, I now learn, I now understand it. So it's a real, it's a massive way to increase engagement within your organisation. Removal of learning fatigue. So people don't want to log on to an LMS and see they have 10 courses they've got to complete by a certain date. Everyone leaves it to the last minute and then they have to do it frantically within a blocked out day or something of their time. No one wants that approach. That's not how we learn based on the theory behind it. And also people feel empowered by learning in that way. They also have an understanding that they can shape their own learning paths and their own journeys based on what they want to know. And finally, real-time learning applications. So, as I said, we shape our own learning. Learning and knowledge is not innate in us. We have the ability to shape that and really align it to what your business needs. And how do we help our clients realise these benefits? It mentioned Learning Academy. This is a service that we offer for our clients. It's formed around these three key concepts, three key mediums in which we can really deliver this e-learning to our clients. So the first one is e-learning courses as we know it, as I shared, and then looked at embedding within the element. These can be of very different lengths, modules. We generally like to keep them very short, concise, bite-sized bits of e-learning that are very interactive, that really align with what we see within a playbook, but they don't have to be. All completely branded to clients, the client needs, what they want, how they want it to look. The second component is classroom-based learning. So although rise of e-learning, people still do like to sit in a room and to engage, have a dialogue, discuss the common trends, discuss the challenges, sit around a table and actually chew the fat, so to speak, around a particular topic. So we facilitate training and do one around AI, where we actually get people physically in a room or virtually, but actually sitting down with a presentation, discussion points, etc. And finally, around video explainers. So video explainers are probably the most common and kind of making the playbook more accessible, easily digestible chunks of information that flow through components of a playbook. So take PACE as another example. PACE as an example. We did 62 videos for 62 products within a playbook, each explaining benefits, what the product is, how to use the product, all using AI to help facilitate and develop the content. So really easy to maintain, really easy to upkeep, and also significantly cheaper than sitting someone in a room after take 10 trying to reshoot a video about something which instantly goes slightly out of date because they might move to a different organisation or something changes and it's so hard to keep and maintain. So video explainers can be embedded within the element itself, they can be embedded within e-learning, or they can actually be a standalone product. So video explainers is a very powerful learning tool that we find within clients. So this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek end point, but snackable learning just allows us to provide people with the information they need when they need it. People do not want to sit down for a 3-course dinner and consume everything all at once. They want to have snacks throughout the day. So this is us enabling them to do that, all facilitated and enabled by the use of the